Hey, we're back. I'm Roger Mittag, and these are the Style Sessions. I'll be your host, as I have been for the last 20 some odd weeks. I hope you're getting lots out of this. There's lots of good information, and it helps us to learn a little bit more about beer and appreciate a variety of different styles a little bit better. So today, I'm in love with Belgian beers, and I think it happens to come along with the fact that that's where I received my initial training. Back in 1997, I and another group that was part of the Olin Specialty Beer Company were taken over to Belgium to be trained on how to understand beer a little bit better, how to sell it better, how to talk about it. And I just fell in love with everything the Belgians were doing. So this is another one of my favorite styles today, and it's really unique. And today, not only are we going to talk about the history and the characteristics, taste attributes of the beer, but I'm going to show you how to pour the traditional way, the way that we were taught in Belgium. So the beer that I'm featuring today is Belgian Tripel, and for a very specific reason, because the term triple comes from the Westmalle Brewery. So I wanted to feature something that was the originator of what this style is right now. We're using a chalice glass because, as with most Trappist beers, this deals with monastic brewing, and monastic brewing takes its roots back into the early Middle Ages. And the chalice is obviously something that has religious connotations, and it's sometimes an offering, but the other reason that you have a chalice is changes the flavor of the beer. So there are two different types of beers, glasses that you can use. For this particular one, it depends on what you want to get. So use the chalice for a triple if you want to open it up a little bit more, soften the edge that comes from an abundant use of hops. There is a little bit of bitterness in triples, and just to let some of the alcohol dissipate as well, because triples are always very, very strong in alcohol content. If you want to use a different type of glass, then you would want to have something that would be a little bit taller and narrower. So let me just show you. So this is called a Celt, and very similar to a Tiku glass as well. So some of you may have seen a Tiku glass, but this is really kind of a cool glass because it opens up in the body, softening the beer itself, but then it keeps the head in really, really nicely and tight in there. Belgian triples don't typically have a tremendous amount of aromas, but we'll get into that once we finish the pour. So one of the things that I was taught when we were pouring Belgian beers is that it is not appreciated if there's noise coming from the bottle. So you have to be very gentle, very careful when you're initially pouring. So I'm going to open this, and then we'll talk a little bit about taste attributes and oops. So I'm going to start on a 45-degree angle, and I'm going to be very, very gentle. The reason that you're gentle is you do not want to arouse the yeast, because we want to be able to give the beer drinker the choice on whether or not they want the sediment in their beer. So we've got this beautiful pour. And then I'm going to take the bottle, and I'm going to swirl it around. I'm going to arouse the yeast. And then I'm going to pour it in this shot glass. There. So you can have a look at this. I'm not sure whether you can see that or not, but I can tell you that it's slightly hazy, and it's got this really nice, rich, dark golden color to it. And a lot of triples are that rich golden color. It's really big, frothy white foam on there. And then I have this. This is the sediment. This is the yeast that's been in the bottle to keep it alive, to get rid of the oxygen, provide a little bit more carbon dioxide. And the proper way of serving it in Belgium is to present the bottle, the glass, pour it, and then keep the reserve for the guests to decide whether they want it or not. Now, me particularly, I always want this in the beer because I think it brings down the softness of the beer, so it doesn't have this sharpness. But I also think that the yeast and the sediment have flavor that are good contributors. So I'm just going to pour that right in. And now when I hold that up, you can see that that's gone from hazy to fully cloudy, and it's a really dark peach mango color to it. Big white frothy foam. Aromatics typically on Belgian triples are led by bubble gum, a little bit of pepper, a little bit of spice. Some people might see that spice as clove because those are typical Belgian yeast aromatics. You might, instead of bubble gum, get banana. There's also going to be some apple notes and some pear notes on here, so it's really bright on the fruit side. You might get a little bit of tartness on the nose as well. Just an amazing beer, it really is. This particular one, I think, is, let's just check, 9.5% alcohol by volume. So this is not something that you A, want to drink cold, and B, want to drink quickly. This is a beer that's meant to be sipped and savored and enjoyed. Warmer temperatures are good, so serving temperature anywhere between 12 and 17 degrees Celsius is probably perfect. It's going to soften it a little bit. And the warmer the beer gets, the more the alcohol dissipates. So, got all the aromatics. Now we're going to take a taste. It's really lively, very spritzy, champagne-y. It's got a relatively quick finish, but it does have some aftertaste and it does have some bitterness that lingers. And that's because Belgian triples do use hops more so than almost any other Belgian style that's being made. You're going to get a little bit more of that bubble gum, that spice note in there, plus a little bit of bitterness, and some of that apple is going to remain. A little bit of breadiness on there, but it's really a beer that's meant to sip, savor, and enjoy life. That's really the intent behind it. So a bit of history on this particular style, and I think we've mentioned this in the past, but there's a lot of misconceptions about where these names came from, and it can go back into people's beliefs that we were illiterate and we were naming them 1X, 2X, 3X. But again, when you look at actual brewing history, what you find is that the Westmalle Brewery, which had created the double name for the first strong dark beer that was being brewed in monasteries, that was in the mid-1800s, and then in 1933 created a strong blonde beer and named it a triple. And so we have the Westmalle Monastery and the brewers at the Westmalle Monastery and the abbots and monks to thank for this wonderful style. It is an incredible style, and I hope you get a chance to explore it. I've had almost every one of the 10 Trappist breweries. I've had their beers. Not always available in Canada, but in the United States you can get quite a few of them that are available. They're all fascinating and wonderful. So next time we are going to get together, we're going to talk about Belgian quadruples. And quadruples are strong dark beers just like doubles are. So if you want to think about it, Belgian blondes and triples are both blonde in color, and Belgian doubles and quadruples are dark in color. And we'll talk a little bit more about the attributes. So we'll take a look next week, and if you want, I'll give you a little insight as to what we're going to do. I'm going to use Chimay Bleu for next week, talking about Belgian quads, and then the week after that we're going to get into strong German beers and primarily Eisbox. So having said that, wish you the best. Thank you for tuning in. If you want more beer information, check us out at www.tfkbeer.com, and I'll see you next week.